This is what it's like to run a node for Cartesi. Welcome back if you've been here before, or welcome if you're new to this YouTube channel. We're glad to have you here. I am Titus Riker from Excelsior Staking, and today I'm going to be showing you a bit of what it's like to actually operate a stake pool for the Cartesi network. Before we get there, though, I need a little insight from you guys. So when I started this channel, the intent was just to provide some information to the Cartesi community about how to stake your crypto, about what it's like running stake pools. But now that there are a handful of videos on the channel, I'm seeing some feedback that some people might actually want to see what it's like running stake pools across the digital assets world. So if that's something you want to see, leave a comment in the description below telling me that you'd like to see it and what blockchains I should make videos about.
I was finding some of the previous videos I did a bit sterile. So this time there is no script. All I have is an outline of the different points that I think you'd find useful to know about. So please forgive the informalities that will be in this video if you don't like them. Also, we're trying the headset just to have a different mic for some better sound quality for this video. Let me know if you guys like it or if I should be going back to the original mic I was using before.
If you would like to actually have your Cartesi staked for you rather than having to risk having your node down or whatnot, I invite you to join us with the Excelsior staking pool. Link will be in the description below. We are running dedicated servers with redundancies in place, and we have a tertiary backup in the form of a full infrastructure replicated on the cloud. It's tested, it's ready to go should it ever be needed. So you can be very confident that we'll never have our node down. All right, onto the part of the video where we actually set up the node. Since this is just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to be setting this node up on a Ubuntu VM that I've gone ahead and SSH'd into in this terminal on the right here. The first thing we're going to need to do is set up Docker. For those who are unfamiliar with Docker, the Cartesi node is containerized, basically meaning it's set up to run in a contained system such that it can be easily deployed across multiple architectures. Docker is what provides that container. So since I'm running in Ubuntu, we'll go find the Ubuntu install directions. By the way, the links to this web page will be in the description below. And since this is a very clean VM that I just set up, I'm going to skip uninstalling old versions and get up to installing Docker Engine. All right, I'm going to disconnect what you see on the screen from the voiceover for a minute, but we're just going to run the commands, the Docker list, to get the node set up. The first one is going to be the sudo apt-get update. That's just going to make Ubuntu update where it's looking to get new software from. Then we're going to go ahead and install some dependencies for Docker, add Docker's official GBG key, and point the Ubuntu directories towards the stable repository for Docker. Coming down, when we start actually installing the Docker engine, the sudo apt-get update, it just goes ahead and actually makes Ubuntu recognizes the changes we just made to where it's going to look for software. And then sudo apt-get install Docker, etc. actually goes ahead and installs portions of Docker. All right, so that means we installed correctly, and we can go ahead and move on to actually installing the Cartesi node. On to actually getting the Cartesi binaries up and running. The easiest, at least printed instructions to follow for how to do this are on Cartesi's Medium pages. I will give the links to these in the description below, as always. So this page right here is how to set up a pool on the actual Ethereum mainnet. To avoid gas fees, we're going to work on the Robson testnet today because it is expensive to actually set up a pool on mainnet. And when I say expensive, when I set up the pool for Excelsior staking, it was 400 USD in gas fees just for creating the pool itself, and Ethereum was about 3,800 USD at the time. So for Robson testnet, this is the instruction set for how to set it up for the beta. However, these instructions basically say follow the other instruction set, but using this command, this name for the nodes. So here's the other instruction set. So we'll go ahead and start executing these commands. The first one is the Docker pull. So Docker pull just goes ahead and downloads the container that you tell it to download. And I never went through giving this user elevated permissions to run Docker, so I'm just going to use the sudo command today for simplicity. So we have sudo docker pull in Cartesi noether something. And we'll go ahead, run that. Things will download, and I'm not going to make you wait through the downloading, so I'll see you on the other side. All right, the Docker image has gone ahead and downloaded, so we can start moving on to the part where we actually start up the Docker image. So I'm going to break up that command a little to show you a few things before that actually happens, so hence why I have it open in a text editor. So first thing we're going to do is add sudo, because once again, since this is a demo, I never actually gave my user account elevated permissions to run Docker. So going through things, first argument for this command is the name command. So that's going to be the actual name assigned to the Docker container that the node runs in. We're just going to leave that as suggested at the moment because it's a demo. Cartesi wallet is where it's actually going to go ahead and create the Docker volume that stores your actual wallet, well, your private key for the node. Cartesi noether right here is back to which version of the Docker image should it use. So that, as we said before, needs to get replaced with this. And URL here is the link to the, well, Robson, not Ethereum gateway that the node will use to actually communicate with the network. So you're going to want to change this out. I would suggest using a professionally managed Ethereum gateway provider like Alchemy or Infura. I've been using Alchemy so far, so we're just going to go ahead and copy the URL that they give us, or they give me for this, and paste that in. And your wallet is where to initially actually look for the JSON file that contains your private key to actually run. We're going to make sure that we actually create a new wallet, since this is the first time we're starting up this node, and verbose to actually output stuff, to actually output logs to the terminal. So that is our command. So we can now go ahead, copy that, we'll paste it in here and execute it. And we can see that the node is starting up and is asking us for a password. This is the password that it will use to encrypt the private key for your wallet. So make it something memorable, but unique and safe. Because if someone gets at this, they can get, well, only add the Ethereum bonded to your node to allow for making blocks. And retype the password for confirmation. And we can see down here that the node has been created, and the software is now looking at the network for a stake pool to go ahead and hire it. All right. So we do have a functional node now, but let's not quite move over to the Cartesi Explorer to finish setting up the stake pool. We have a little bit more that I want to do here first. So the first thing is, at the moment, if I were to disconnect from this terminal window, the node would shut down. To prevent that from happening, we need to disconnect the Docker container, which we can do by pressing Control-P followed by Control-Q. And with that, we can now see that the Docker container is still running by having Docker list all running containers. As such, if I could type, and we can see that our node is now up. Next thing that we want to do is go ahead and start backing up that wallet information. So you can back up your wallet in two ways. One is to actually export the JSON file that holds your keys, that holds your seed phrase. The other way is to just export your seed phrase. I recommend doing both. We're going to do both. So we're going to start up with we're going to start by exporting the key file. So to do that, we're going to run this command. Command will be in the link below. And how about I just not edit all that failing out so you know that I'm a real person. So we have sudo docker, and then CP is going to copy the file here to here. So Cartesi underscore noether is the name of the container that is our node. And then this file path is a file path to the file that we actually want to copy out. And then this one right here, key.json, is the new file that will be created that is actually the JSON file with your seed phrase. So now, if I were to execute ls, you can see I have key.json right there. To go ahead and back up the mnemonic, we're going to execute this command. I'll give it to you in the description below. So once again, we have sudo docker run something, run being actually execute code, and we have the Docker volume that we're looking at, and the export command, and the Docker image. And you can see the mnemonic that came up for this node. Now, I'm probably going to blur this out in post but I'm just going to be shutting down this node as soon as I finish this demonstration, so who really cares if you look at it? All right. Let's say we want to attach back to the node so that we can see what's going on. Easy command, sudo docker again, attach, and then the name of the node. So Cartesi underscore noether, and we'll give it a moment because, we'll give it up to about 30 seconds because the node will output something every 30 seconds. So, there you go. You can see we have output from the node again. So that's how you attach to the node, but I need to be disattached from it. So Control P, Control Q. All right, the other thing I want to show you how to do with your node is export the logs. So this stuff up here, this stuff here, while I reattach to the node for a moment, is the logs. So to export them to a file, like you might want to do if you need some help seeing what's up with your node, if you just want to see what your node's done over time, it's going to be run this command that will be in the description below. And I'm going to add sudo to this. So sudo docker logs the name of the container that we're exporting and the file name that you want to use for, well, the file that's going to be your logs. Enter, and if I list the files in this directory, you can see we now have a new file name, a new file. And if I go ahead and open it in Nano, you can go ahead and see the contents. All right. Now, this is all nice and good, but what if I want to restart the node? Well, to restart the node, let's start by killing it as such. So if we wanted to restart the node, you can take this command that we used to start it initially, and and run it, and that will restart the node. You'll need the password that you used to encrypt your JSON file again. However, that can be a lot of text to remember, or you'd have to make a text file somewhere that you can just copy this command out of. So there is a easier way. All right, now that I just killed the node again, what we can do is actually go ahead and set up a text file that contains this command and give it the extension sh, thereby making it a bash file so that we can just tell bash, the actual executor here in our terminal, to execute that file, which will execute this command. I apologize for anyone who thinks I'm not going at a high enough technical level. I'm trying to keep this simple for everyone. So, Nano is a text editor built into the Ubuntu terminal, and I'm just going to name this startnode.sh and go ahead and paste in that command from before. So I'm going to get rid of this create argument here because we already have Ethereum account we already have the address created, so we don't need to do anything with that. And otherwise, we're going to leave this command as is for the time being. So Control O, and then Enter to save, Control X to go back to the terminal. And we need to actually tell Ubuntu that it should execute startnode.sh as an executable program, not as a text file. So sudo chmod +x. I actually don't need sudo for this, but oh well. And now, if I do /startnode.sh, it goes ahead and starts the node. Much easier to type than the rest of this command, and you can see that our node is now back up and running. So I'm going to go ahead and detach from it and move over to the Cartesi Explorer to actually go ahead and hire the node. But first, what are the other things that you could do with this command if you wanted? Well, if you head over to the Cartesi GitHub page and then over to the noether repository, it has the other things you can do with this node setup here. So down here we have the additional options, being the additional commands you can enter with when starting the node. So we talked about URL. That's where you're going to actually, URL is the actual gateway that you're going to use with your node. So for gas price is the one of interest at the moment. So you can see or maybe down here. Down here, you can see what this means. Basically, the default is to use the ETH gas price predictor provided by whatever Ethereum gateway you're using. However, you also have the option of getting gas prices from the ETH gas station API, and you do that by typing in this flag for the option and then typing ETH gas station API. And you also need to go ahead and provide your gas station API key using the gas station API key, and you'd just use whatever that key is instead of typing that in. Also, if you wanted to actually set up automated monitoring of your node, which you probably should, you can add the -- monitoring command to that startup command, which will go ahead and make these metrics exposed at that location so that you can scrape them with Prometheus. More options is you can actually change where that is. But for now, since this is supposed to be a simple demo, we're just going to skip the monitoring. All right, so now we can actually go to the Cartesi Explorer. So I've already attached my MetaMask wallet to the Explorer, and I'm on Robson, correct? Yep, I'm on Robson still. Once again, just to avoid gas fees. So we have this create pool button, and you need to choose a commission model. So I'm assuming that by the time I've edited this video, I would have talked about commission models before we ever got here. So I'm just going to do a flat rate for the time being, and we'll set it to 10% commission. And we'll go ahead, create the pool, and I'll meet you on the other side. Okay, the stakepool has been created on the Robson testnet, but it appears that part of the maintenance the Cartesi team did on the testnet Explorer prevents it from showing up where you'd normally see it. So the way this is supposed to work is that after you actually create the stakepool contract, you go back to this pools page. You'll find your pool in this list down here, and click the little edit thing that shows up here. So it would look a bit more like this. However, since that didn't work, I figured out where I needed to go anyway. So you'll end up at a page that looks a lot like this. And we'll go ahead and put this on the portion of the screen that's being recorded and copy the node address from back here. And that's why you disconnect from the Docker container, because if I had done that Control-C with the container actually attached, I would have just shut down the node. So right-click, copy, paste that in over here. You'll need to actually go ahead and deposit some ETH into the node account at this time if you haven't manually transferred some over before. Since this is just for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to transfer about nothing. Make sure that when you actually do things for real, you actually transfer some real ETH. Yeah, make sure that we don't break anything. And okay, we're not being allowed to hire nodes on testnet at the moment. but this should create another Ethereum transaction that you just go ahead and approve with your wallet. And then down here, you'd be able to enter your ENS name. So ENS is basically a system that allows you to assign a human readable text string to an actual Ethereum address. ES, for those who want to choke me for saying that, you can do a whole lot more with it, but that's really what we're going to be using it for at the moment, so sorry. Now, I'm not actually going to go ahead and create an ENS name because I don't want to clog up the naming system for just a demonstration. But to show you what it might be like, you'd come to the ENS app page, link will be in the description below. Search for whatever text you'd like. So I'm texted. I just searched for demo because I needed a name. So it'd be available. It is available, so I could request to register if I really wanted to. That would open up a MetaMask transaction. Once again, I don't really want to do this, so we'll reject that. And once that transaction would go through, you'd have to wait for a minute, and then you could actually complete the registration with another Ethereum transaction. And once that is done, the account that you are logged into ENS with will now own this ENS domain, and you can go ahead and set up the reverse lookup such that it actually has this domain look at your stakepool address. So the easiest way to set that reverse lookup is to come back to the Cartesi Explorer, and you just type in your ENS domain here and hit save, which let's see what it does if I try that. Yeah, execution reverted. All right, won't work because we're on testnet, which is under maintenance, so therefore prohibiting you from doing it. But if we were on mainnet, that would actually go ahead and set the reverse lookup. Now, if you were running a solo node, instead of coming to the nodes page, you'd be on the staking page. That looks a whole lot like this, but fundamentally works somewhat similar. You'd enter your node address here, choose how much Ethereum to deposit, and I assume that this transaction, so we'll actually be able to get to MetaMask for this transaction this time. I'm going to reject it because I don't actually want to hire my demo node because there's really nothing to show you after this. So with that, your node would be hired, and you just need to actually attach some Cartesi to the node. So down here, type in however much you want to set your allowance to be. You'd have to approve it as always. Approve the MetaMask transaction, approve the Ethereum transaction to actually set the allowance. I'm rejecting it because I don't want to do it in this instance. And then go ahead, enter how much you actually want to stake, and actually stake it. And then you'll be subject to the normal 6-hour time lock that actually goes before you can stake. Back to stake pools for a moment. When you're done hiring your node, it will have no Cartesi attached to it. It will just have the Ethereum so that it can actually process transactions on Ethereum. So you need to actually assign some Cartesi to it if you wanted to actually be able to win slots and have the opportunities to create blocks. So you do that the exact same way any delegator would. So if you want to see how to do that, I have a video about how a delegator adds their Cartesi to a node. So I'll link that in the description below, and you can follow the instructions there. Now, things we did not talk about is security and uptime. So you as the node operator are responsible for keeping your node up always. If you're given the opportunity to actually create a block and you don't, you will eventually get slashed at the moment that I'm making this video. I believe the slashing mechanism has not actually been released to the Cartesi network yet. You are also responsible for keeping your node well funded with ETH, since ultimately what you're doing is taking the Cartesi transactions and securing them on Ethereum. You need to actually have Ether for your node to pay the transaction fees to do such. And obviously, if your node needs to stay up all the time, whatever hardware it's running on needs to be on and powered up. So make sure you have, and connected to the internet. So you need to make sure you have good, reliable internet, good, reliable power, and a good, reliable Ethereum gateway. That is why it's so convenient to go ahead and use a cloud computing service where you just have guys ready, willing, and already done with making sure that your hardware will not be down, your internet will not be down. For security, I'm going to go ahead and, for timeliness' sake, because this video is already really long, declare that out of the scope of this video. But you need to have some security measures in stake so that no one can attack your node or otherwise be malevolent towards your node. So that is the very basics of what it's like to run a node. You've seen we set up the Cartesi binaries. We sort of set up the stake pool or the node on the solo node on the Cartesi Explorer. And we talked a little bit about security and a little bit about uptime, even if I didn't say too much about those, sorry. Now, you are free to do this, obviously, but if you'd like an option where you are not at risk of your node going down, where you are not at risk of your node running out of Ethereum, I invite you to join us at Excelsior Staking. Our nodes are run on dedicated hardware with redundancies in place, and we have a tertiary backup in the form of a full replicated infrastructure on the cloud that's been tested and is ready to go at a moment's notice. And we were the first pool that actually went live once the full public release of stake pools on the mainnet was launched. And we will be donating 10% of all our net profits to charity. So if you'd like to join us, the link will be in the description below. If you'd like to watch a video about how to actually secure Cartesi, I'll link the video that I did on that in the description below as well. So with that, any other questions, please leave them in the comments below, or you can reach me through here on YouTube, or on the Excelsior Staking Twitter page, or via the submit a question form on the Excelsior Staking website. So whatever you're about to do, make it awesome and go decentralize something today. Have a good one all.